Why God pushes dark, chosen ones through extreme tests. Rare truth. There's a truth so raw, so rarely spoken out loud, that only those who have been bruised by God's silence will understand it. It's this: if you are chosen, truly chosen, you will be tested in ways that break the soul before they ever build it. Not because God hates you, not because you're cursed, but because the path of the dark chosen one isn't about comfort. It's about capacity. You are being carved into something most people will never comprehend, and the carving hurts. You see, God does not waste divine power on the unprepared. He does not place spiritual authority in the hands of those who can't withstand spiritual pressure. And when He chooses you, yes, you, He doesn't just look at your potential, He looks at your endurance. He looks at what you can carry, what you can lose and still rise without bitterness. He looks at your scars not as signs of weakness, but as proof you've been in the fire and didn't run. And if you're watching this, there's a good chance you've already tasted that fire.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Maybe you've lost everything, at least once. Your reputation, your family, your health, your mind. Maybe you've cried out to the sky with clenched fists and a cracked voice asking, "Why me?" And the only response was silence, divine silence. That's the first test. Not pain, not loss, but silence. Because in the silence, God watches to see what voice you listen to next. Your ego, the world, or your soul. The dark chosen ones are not born in temples, they are born in trenches. They do not wear white robes surrounded by incense. They wear shadows like cloaks and walk through storms with bleeding feet. Why? Because their mission isn't just to preach light, it's to understand darkness. Not flirt with it, not indulge in it, but to walk through it, study it, survive it, and come out with keys that can unlock cages for others. You cannot lead people out of hell unless you've been there. And so God sends you, but here's where it gets even deeper. These extreme tests aren't just random suffering. They are divine calibrations. They strip away illusion. They burn off ego. They confront you with every part of yourself you've tried to hide, every childhood wound, every shadow thought, every inherited belief that doesn't belong to your soul. And if you resist, the pain grows stronger. But if you surrender, if you fall to your knees and say, "Show me who I really am," that's when the transformation begins. It's not instant. It never is. Sometimes it takes years of wilderness, years of watching others succeed while you are buried underground. But you're not buried. You're being planted, and the deeper your roots grow in the dark, the higher your branches will reach in the light. God does not give shallow roots to those He calls to carry deep revelation. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people, the truly wise, the ones who move your soul with a single sentence, have all suffered deeply? That's not coincidence, that's spiritual law. Revelation is expensive. It costs pain. It costs solitude. It costs letting go of everything you thought you needed so you can become who you were always meant to be. And most people won't understand your journey. That's part of the test too. You'll be misunderstood, misjudged, even mocked. People will call you too intense, too sensitive, too much. But what they're really saying is, "Your depth makes me uncomfortable." And that's okay, because when God chooses you for a rare calling, He isolates you for a rare awakening. He removes the noise so you can hear the whispers. He removes the crowd so you can feel the presence. And He removes your idols, people, habits, ego, so He can install truth. But let me ask you something deeper. What if the pain wasn't meant to destroy you, but to introduce you to your true self? What if the betrayal, the illness, the failure, the heartbreak, what if all of it was a divine mirror showing you which parts of you were still attached to outcomes, to validation, to the illusion of control? What if God wasn't punishing you but preparing? See, most people want the light, but they don't want to be broken open for it. They want the crown, but not the crucifixion. But if you're chosen, you don't get to skip the cross. You must die to who you are. And death is messy. It's not poetic, it's not Instagram-worthy. It's nights of screaming into pillows. It's days of feeling forgotten. It's weeks of questioning everything you ever believed. But after death comes rebirth. That's the promise, that's the reward, but only if you don't quit. So the next time you feel like you're being crushed under the weight of your calling, remember this: diamonds are made under pressure, gold is refined in fire, and gods are remembered not for how easy their lives were, but for how many times they rose from ashes. You are not weak for breaking. You are divine for rebuilding again and again. You want to know a secret? The most dangerous person on this planet is not the one with weapons. It's the one who has survived divine silence and still chooses to love, still chooses to serve, still chooses to shine. That's you. That's what you're becoming. And that's why the tests are so extreme, because your impact will be the divine weight. Why God breaks you before He elevates you. There's a sacred paradox that the dark chosen ones come to know intimately. The higher you're called to rise, the deeper you must be buried. Not buried in defeat, but in divine design. God never elevates someone without first allowing them to be undone. It's not punishment, it's preparation. And while the world may see your life falling apart, heaven sees your spirit being reconstructed brick by brick, in silence, in shadows, in secret. If you've been through extreme tests that made you question your sanity, your purpose, or even your will to live, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been marked with something rare, something ancient, something sacred. And God doesn't place eternity in the hands of the untested. He breaks you first, because only through the breaking can your false identities fall away. Only through the breaking will you realize you were never meant to live a normal life. You weren't built for shallow waters. You were built for the deep, and the deep requires pressure. So many people ask, why does God allow this much pain if He loves me? But love doesn't always look like comfort. Sometimes love looks like fire. Sometimes love looks like removing the very things you thought you couldn't live without, so you can discover what you were always meant to live for. What if the things you lost weren't stolen from you, but sacrificed for you? What if the heartbreak wasn't rejection, but redirection? What if the delay wasn't denial, but divine development? You see, most people want elevation, but they don't want the weight that comes with it. They want influence, but not the integrity required to carry it. They want the spotlight, but not the shadows that must be faced before stepping into it. But God is not concerned with your popularity. He's concerned with your purity. And that's why he allows the breaking. Because in the breaking, you can no longer fake it. You can no longer perform. You can no longer hide behind masks. You have to face who you are when no one is clapping. Who you are when the prayers go unanswered. Who you are when the vision looks like a curse instead of a calling. And that's the real test. Can you still believe when there's no evidence? Can you still serve when no one sees you? Can you still love when all you've known is betrayal? These are not easy questions. These are soul questions. These are the questions that separate those who are simply spiritual from those who are divinely chosen. And if you're listening to this, you've probably already faced at least one of them head on. Maybe you're in that season right now. The season where everything feels heavy. Where the people you thought would never leave are gone. Where the dreams you held onto for years have crumbled. Where the vision feels like a curse instead of a gift. But what if I told you that this is exactly where God does his deepest work? Not in the spotlight, not on the mountaintop, but in the valley, in the shadows, in the silence. It's in the wilderness that you learn the voice of God without interference. It's in the wilderness that you stop depending on applause and begin to depend on alignment. And it's in the wilderness that you become dangerous. Not to the world, but to the systems that tried to keep you small. To the lies that tried to keep you asleep. To the fear that tried to keep you quiet. Do you understand now? The breaking wasn't punishment, it was permission. Permission to become everything you were always meant to be. Permission to drop the masks, the expectations, the roles the world pushed on you. God had to break what was false so he could reveal what was real. And what is real cannot be taken. What is real cannot be destroyed. What is real cannot be bought, sold, or manipulated. It simply is. It simply endures. And that's who you are now becoming. Someone who endures. Someone who carries divine weight with grace. Someone who walks with fire in their bones and peace in their eyes. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's lonely. But what if the loneliness isn't a curse, but a cocoon? What if the silence isn't emptiness, but sacred space? What if this entire season of pain is a test, not of your strength, but of your surrender? Because when you finally stop fighting the breaking, you make room for the becoming, the sacred setup. Why God hides you before he reveals you. What people don't understand about the dark chosen ones is that before they ever emerge into the world with wisdom, power, and impact, they go through a long season of divine concealment, a hidden season, a sacred obscurity. And this is not because they're forgotten, it's because they are being formed. If you felt invisible, overlooked, or buried beneath the noise of the world, you're not being punished. You're being protected. God hides what he values. There's a divine reason you've been in the shadows. Because the spotlight is dangerous when you're not ready. If you step into your purpose too soon, without the refinement of silence and solitude, what was meant to be holy can become hollow. The world is quick to give attention, but God is patient with alignment. He's not interested in you being seen by the masses before you've been seen by yourself. That's why you've been hidden, to find who you really are without the mirrors of society reflecting back false images. Have you noticed how the most powerful spiritual voices didn't just arrive at their wisdom? They were carved into it. They didn't just read books and quote scriptures. They bled. They wept. They wandered. And they were hidden for long seasons, misunderstood, labeled, even dismissed. But that was the point. The world could not see them because the world was not ready for them. And in many ways, they weren't ready either, not until the hiding did its work. In the hidden season, everything is stripped. Your ego, your identity, your reliance on external affirmation. You begin to realize that the validation you once craved was only a substitute for your own self-trust. God removes the noise so you can hear the one voice that matters, your soul. And that voice, it doesn't scream. It whispers. It speaks in quiet nudges, in sacred reminders, in the stillness between breakdowns. This is where you start to notice something miraculous. In the silence, you begin to change. Not in an obvious way, not in a way others will see right away, but deep in your bones, you start to shift. You become less reactive. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop needing everyone to understand you. Why? Because you finally understand yourself. You begin to feel a power within you. Not the loud kind, but the grounded kind. The kind that doesn't seek to impress, but to embody. And when that shift happens, you'll notice something else. The old life no longer fits. The old conversations, the old environments, even the old friendships, they feel foreign now, not because you're better, but because you're different. You've outgrown the version of you that needed to belong. And now, you belong to yourself. That's what the hidden season does. It teaches you sovereignty. It teaches you to walk without applause, to trust without evidence, to serve without recognition. But even deeper than that, it teaches you to wait, to not rush your becoming, to not force open doors that aren't yours. Because when God reveals you, He does it with precision, not 1 second too early, not 1 moment too late. And when that moment comes, nothing can stop it, no one can block it, no force can reverse it. Because what God reveals, He has already refined. And what He refines, He trusts. So if you're still hidden, still waiting, still wondering if your time will ever come, hear this. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being sculpted by divine hands. And the longer the preparation, the greater the purpose. But here's the real question. Can you stay faithful in the silence? Can you keep showing up when no one sees you? Can you keep believing when nothing is blooming? That's the test of the hidden ones. And if you can pass it, you don't just become visible, you become unstoppable. Because when the world finally sees you, they won't just see a person, they'll see a presence. They'll feel something eternal. And they'll know this one has been with God, the hidden crown. Why your suffering is the map to your destiny. There's something mysterious, almost divine, about suffering that refuses to let go. It doesn't just hurt you, it reshapes you. It doesn't just break you, it initiates you. And for those of us who walk the path of the dark chosen, our suffering is not random chaos. It is coded, designed, sacred. It is the map drawn not with ink, but with blood, silence, and surrender that leads us straight into our destiny. You may not see it when you're in the middle of it, when the pain is fresh, when the betrayal still stings, when the nights are long and God seems 1,000 lifetimes away. But every tear you've cried, every piece of your former self that shattered, none of it was wasted. All of it was recorded. All of it was building something you couldn't understand then because you were still inside the fire. But now, if you've endured long enough, you can begin to see the outline. the shape of something divine rising from the ashes of what you used to be. That's the hidden crown. Not a crown made of gold, but of grit. Not made to impress the world, but to carry weight the world has never seen. The dark chosen don't wear their crowns in public, they wear them in the way they walk through life. With quiet authority, with eyes that have seen too much, with a presence that says, "I've been to hell and I've brought back heaven with me." See, the suffering wasn't the curse, it was the curriculum. It was the training ground for your soul's evolution. You had to lose them, you had to fail, you had to break, because without those moments, you would have never accessed the deeper layers of your being. You would have stayed surface level, safe, small, and God didn't call you to be small. He called you to shake systems, to break generational chains, to carry messages that the world isn't ready for but desperately needs. And to do that, he had to make sure you were unbreakable. So he allowed the breaking, and now here you are. Scarred, yes, but sacred. Wounded, yes, but wise. You've survived what should have destroyed you, and that survival alone is proof you were chosen. Chosen not to escape pain, but to transcend it. Chosen not to be perfect, but to be powerful. Chosen not to be light, but to be light. The kind of light that terrifies darkness just by showing up. And now it's your turn to decide. Will you carry your crown with dignity? Will you walk in your calling, even if no one understands it? Will you bless others with the wisdom you bled for? That's the final initiation, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Thank you, use me." Because this isn't just about your healing. It's about what your healing will unlock for others. You didn't suffer just to survive. You suffered to guide, to become the living proof that the fire doesn't have the final say. God does, and his plan for you is still unfolding. So wear your hidden crown, carry your scars like scrolls, and walk forward not as a victim of life, but as a vessel of divine truth. Your destiny is written, your path is sacred, and your time is now.